Here we go. Hello, everybody. Jim Malone coming to you live on Dallas Trading Floor. Did a little bit of a mistake here, but we are back on Dallas Trading Floor, and so I've been off a few days, and hopefully we will see people come into the hopefully take a look at the show again today. So here we go. Hey everybody, Jim Malone here again on Dallas Trading Floor. I kind of want to reiterate what I just did. Talked a little bit about Tesla took a real tumble today on its prices. What happened was, Tesla is cutting the price of the Model Y in China, and that has caused the stock to move significantly lower. And right now, I don't think we have support on Tesla shares. I'm currently out of Tesla stock, but I'm waiting for another bounce, and I think the bounce is probably going to be right at about 208. That's kind of where I think it's gonna end up. It's going to end up going on us. Basically, what happened on the after hours for Tesla is we were down today about 1.19%, but we're also down after hours, and we're below that critical 50-day moving average. And the reason that's significant is because that is where we wanted to see support on Tesla. And let's kind of see how Tesla traded today. I'm going to go to the intraday chart here. Hopefully we can see that kind of where Tesla is trading and how it's trading today. So here we go. Basically, we opened lower. This is a gap down. We began the day right about 242. We gapped down all the way to 233.75. Then we rallied up here to 240, and then pulled back. By the way, very, very interesting thing. This is a kind of what Jesse Livermore theorized many years ago, is that the even numbers on stocks, that tends to be the support and the resistance. And right now, at least for Tesla, 240 is the resistance. So we moved up, and then we bounced, and then we came back up. We made another attempt at moving through 240, was rejected again, made another attempt, and then we ended on a high note. I suspect tomorrow we're likely to go lower on Tesla. Where I see Tesla, where I see support for Tesla, and this is the weekly chart here, is right at about 208, right at about there. That's kind of where I'm showing support. Let's see if we get that. Yeah, right about there. That is a support for Tesla. I still think we have a little ways to go. If it moves down to 208 and then we get a turn, that's probably a signal to buy. But right now, not a very good time to be in Tesla. I think we've got to wait for it to pull back, probably to about 208. That's what I'm seeing, anyways, on the charts. All right, let's look at what kind of market condition we're in right now. The market has moved to a uptrend under pressure, and what that means is we should not be fully invested in the market. We should be in about less than 50%. Currently, I'm 35% invested in my portfolios. The rest is cash. So I'm 65% cash, 35% in the market. The NASDAQ was up today. It started out lower and then moved higher. That's a good sign. We also had the Dow 30. That was kind of mixed bag. It moved down, and then it moved up, and then it moved down, and finished up, but barely. So the NASDAQ, so the NASDAQ is still the leading index. The Dow, not so much. The S&P 500, it had about half the move that the NASDAQ had. So kind of interesting action there on those indexes. But we still are seeing money. We're seeing money move back into the NASDAQ stocks. Mostly those are technology stocks, but I'm currently really out of technology stocks. I'm in really kind of other stocks that I kind of want to show you. Here's the stocks that I added today, and this may be of interest to you. I added NVIDIA today. That was a good add because it was up 7%. I added 3 times today. So I do think that we're going to go higher on this one. And I'll show you that chart in just a second on the analytics on NVIDIA. But I definitely think we're going higher on that one as well. Ollie's Bargain Outlet. I've had this one. I did add to it. This is not a new buy for me. Ollie's Bargain Outlet, OLLI. And I do think that this one is going to be one of the few really good retail stocks. So normally, retail in a recession, not a very good thing to be in. But Ollie's is different, I think, because first of all, they're expanding. Second of all, they're buying most of their inventory from everybody else, and they're heavily discounting it. And a lot of people seem to really like the store, Ollie's Discount Warehouse, OLLI. I also added Monster Beverage, and of course, you've probably seen them out there. They used to be called Hanson's Natural, and it has very much it is very much part of the of this cycle. Interestingly enough, throughout for 100 years, there have been soft drink companies that have done well. The original one, of course, was Coca-Cola. It was one of the high flyers back in the 1920s, and it's still a great stock to this day. Same with Pepsi in the 70s and the 60s, and now Celsius Beverages is the weight loss beverage, and I think also Monster. Monster, of course, is big in the energy in the energy drink area, and so it does have a lot of caffeine in it. But people seem to really like that one. I did sell a stock today, and I sold it before earnings. That was on. This is the company that is supported by Roger Federer. He's, of course, a very famous tennis player, and he is behind this one. It's a Swiss company. They make tennis shoes. No surprise there. It was up after hours. Say, Jim, why did you sell it? Well, I sold it because it didn't meet my criteria, and that is I typically will sell a stock if it's not up at least 10% from where I bought it into earnings. And we went into earnings today. The earnings were good. It went up, but I was not up 10%. So I sold it, took the profit, and ran away. So that's kind of my take on that. All right, we'll almost get to the stocks. I'm going to show you what I have, and then let's get to your questions. Thank you for being so patient with me. All right, Ollie's Bargain Outlet, of course, that's one of the ones that I do own. This Helix Energy Solutions, this is a oil and gas play, primarily in the oil and gas services area. I also own Schlumberger, which is the big one. They service all the offshore rigs, and they're a big company in the oil services area. We're starting to see a pickup we're starting to see a pickup in the oil area. So very interesting there, Schlumberger. I also have another stock called TK Tankers, and that one is not doing as well, but I'm hanging on to it because I'm still not down 7% on it. And of course, 7% is my sell. It's T&K, TK Tankers. Here's the interesting thing about tankers, at least currently in this market. There is a tremendous demand for tanker space, mainly because of the war in the Ukraine, and these companies tend to be very profitable. But as you can see on the daily chart here, there has been a bit of a sell-off. As you can see, we were coming up very nicely here. We got up to 45, then we hit the resistance, and the resistance really is right at about there. And of course, we've pulled back, and hopefully we'll bounce here at about 42. That's what I'm hoping in terms of, in terms of it. We're going to be bouncing hopefully here at about 42. So that hopefully will be the situation. Relative strength was still pretty high at 92. So very good there. All right. And so thanks for bearing with me in my little technical difficulties. Let's get to your questions. Thank you so much. Sandeep, let's take a look at Google. And that one, of course, everybody loves Google. Oops, I'm not live there. That's the reason. Okay, so I'll go live here. And let's take a look at Google GOOG. Now there's two classes of stock for Google, GOOG and GOOGL. So they're essentially the same. One is the Class A shares, and the other one is the Class C shares. It has to do with the voting. The Class C shares are the ones that are the voting shares and the other ones I believe are not. So let's take a look at the chart for Google. We seem to have some. We seem to be kind of hanging out right here at about 130. We had this nice gap up when it came all the way down to the 50-day line. It gapped up, but now it's been sort of holding at that 130 area. Now it is in a tight pattern. This is not necessarily a bad place to buy it. We've got a relative strength line which is moving higher. That is a good thing. We're at 90 relative strength. That definitely is where we can buy it because we want that relative strength probably at least 80. 90, of course, is better. So this is looking pretty decent coming out of sort of this cup with a sort of a high handle here. So would I buy it here? Well, I probably would not, just because I want, obviously the place to have bought it would have been back here, at about in July 25th. Why? Because it pulled back to that 50-day line. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to buy in that 50-day line. And let me show you why that's so important. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. And I've been buying NVIDIA all day today. And here's kind of what happens. You can see this red line here. This is the 50-day moving average. Notice how it came down and then it violated that. So I just kind of waited. And then today we got this very, very nice bounce at 400. If you're a follower of Jesse Livermore, and I highly recommend taking a look at the work of Jesse Livermore, he was probably the greatest stock trader of all time. He talks about how typically you're going to get floors and ceilings on round numbers, and that's definitely the case here with NVIDIA. So right now, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to not buy stocks extended. I'm trying to buy them much, much closer to that 50-day line if I possibly can. All right. Let's take another one from Sandeep. Thank you. Amazon. Let's look at Amazon here and see if we can get that up. Amazon, AMZN. Now, this one is also, this is giving us, let's get it back. I'm going to pull it to the weekly chart first. We're going to take a look at the weekly chart on Amazon first. And here we go. See, this is the thing. We did have, we had the 50-day moving above that 200-day. That's typically very bullish. That's the golden cross. But what happened was, we had those, we had this pullback basically last week. We really had a kind of a strong movement out of tech stocks last week. It fell all the way down here to about 88.80, and then we finally getting support. I probably would not be a buyer here. The reason I wouldn't be is because I'm looking here and I'm seeing a lot of selling action here. Let's look at the intraday chart on Amazon to see kind of what's going on with the chart. We're kind of flatlining here. We seem to have a floor or a ceiling resistance right here at about 90. So this is a key level. Here's the thing, I probably would not be a buyer here, even though we did get a very nice bounce here today up to 90. I want to see it move above about 91 or so. I want to see it move right to about there before I'll start buying it. So right now we're still in a downward trend. If we look at the weekly chart, you can see it's kind of coming down here. So we're sort of in a downward trend. So not a good buy. So if you have Amazon, I would be probably paring it back maybe and looking to see if we get a bounce. But right now, I just think we've got to be really careful. I think we've got to be careful with Amazon. It is pulling back. So Google I like, Amazon not so much, unfortunately. All right, Chinese EV stocks. This is obviously probably the best of the Chinese EV stocks right now is LI, Li Auto. That seems to be doing quite well, but it's kind of all over the place. Let's go to the weekly chart here. Now, the weekly chart normally would be a lot flatter than this, but it seemed like it's moving right up the 50-day moving average, so that's a good thing. If we go to the intraday chart, you can see that we're still kind of moving lower on here. We did have a little bit of a movement up, but it does seem like we have some resistance right here at about 40. So Even though there was buying in here, this is really a mixed bag for me right now. I'm kind of taking a wait see attitude. I think if it pulls back further, closer to that, to the 50-day moving average, maybe at 37 or so, that might be an entry point. But right now, I would wait for a pullback because it's still pulling back. And I think if we get a bounce, if we get a bounce at about 37 on LI Auto, that might be a good thing. The relative strength is 97. That's very good. But here's a little thing that is concerning me, and that is the relative strength line is moving lower. So I would be watch listing LI Auto right now. I would not be buying it. I would be not be buying it. Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh, right. Thoughts on Neo? All right. Let's look at Neo. Of course, this is also a Chinese auto stock, not quite as strong as LI Auto. And it does have sort of a downward trend, as you can see. We're kind of in a downward trend. We did move above that black line. That's key. Why? Because that's the 200-day moving average, and we do have the golden cross with the 50-day moving above that 200. But what this kind of is a little frightening here. We came all the way up to 15. We've got resistance at 15. And it looks like we're pulling back again, possibly down to 10. So I would skip this one for now. Why? Because, well, it's just not performing well. It did not move past 15. Therefore, I think that you just got to watch this. So right now, the best of the breed in terms of the automobile stocks from China is LI Auto, LI. That's the one that you want to concentrate on. Neo, probably not as much. All right, thank you very much. Tesla bounces to the 200-day. Should I wait for it to cross and add to the position? Okay, that's a very, very good question that you're asking about Tesla. Let's take a look at the Tesla chart. TSLA, of course, is the symbol. And my plan is I'm going to be probably starting a new position. I've had, as you well know, I've had Tesla in the past. I've done quite well with Tesla. I did sell out right before earnings because it was approaching. I sold 60% of my position right before earnings at about 300, and then it pulled back, and then I sold the rest out. But I'm waiting to buy it again because it's sort of a roller coaster and it can be very profitable. Here's what's going on. If we look at it currently, today it closed at about 237, but as you'll notice, there's a downward trend on the stock. So right now we really can't buy it. Why? Well, it should have gotten support here based on this prior action, but it didn't. So we've got to wait. It's probably going to go lower. My guess is it may pull back as low as, I think it's going to get support before the 200-day line, but by that time the 200-day line will have caught up. I think where we're going to get support for Tesla is going to be at about 208. And the reason I think that is because that was the previous buy point. For Tesla. And if we go back and take a look at the weekly chart, you can see that here. Show you that. That is the 208 area. That's right there. Okay, and that's where the previous buy point was. And I do think we're going to come down to that buy point and then possibly move higher. But right now, I think you just got to watch Tesla. You got to wait. And I would not be a buyer at this level. I think it's going lower, unfortunately. I'd like to see it go higher, obviously. But right now, it doesn't seem to be going in that direction. Uh-oh. There we go. All right. So let's take a look at some of the other questions. See if we got anybody from Tesla. Thoughts on ALB, Albemarle. Interesting stock. Albemarle, of course, is a lithium miner. ALB. This is a question from this is a question from TikTok. Yeah. So this is a question from TikTok on Albemarle, ALB. Let's look at ALB and take a look. Albemarle, and we have a situation here. If you can see this, there we go, where we came all the way up to the 200-day line. We got resistance. That's right here at about at about 241. We got resistance. We pulled back. We're now down below the 50-day line, and we're about 180. So right now, I think it's probably going to get some support at about 171. That's where I'm guessing we're going to get a bounce, because as you can see here and here, that's about 171. So I definitely think we're going to get support about 171. But right now, we're not there. We're at 184. So I do expect Albemarle to move lower to about 171 before we get another bite at the apple. But it's a good stock. But I don't think we want to. I think we want to be careful with it right now. Interesting question. A question on Citibank. I haven't had a question on Citibank in a long time. I'm currently a little bit bearish on some of the banks, especially the regional banks. But obviously, of course, Citibank is not a regional bank. It is a money center bank. It's a worldwide bank. But I still don't like the action on it. If we go to the weekly chart, you'll notice we have been moving lower. And now that we're trading below that 200-day moving average, and that 200-day moving average is about 47.50, that is not a good place to be buying Citibank. So right now, I can't recommend Citibank. The relative strength line is moving lower. We have selling action. This is on the weekly chart. If we go over to the daily chart, you can see we have the same problem. We have the 200-day line. We have selling going on here, moving below that 45-day average. So really not a good place to buy it. We also have a declining relative strength line at 24, so it's moving lower. So I cannot recommend Citibank. So I would say C is not a buy. So I think we just have to be super careful here, because in this interest rate environment, Citibank is gonna suffer. Citibank has some liquidity issues, believe it or not. It's not a buy, so I wouldn't be in Citibank. It's just, I don't think it's really working good. PayPal had some interesting news today. They got a new officer at PayPal. Let's take a look at the chart. I think people really liked it. It definitely has been in sort of this death crunch. It's been moving lower. It's below that. It came up to the 200-day moving average. It pulled its neck above it, but it closed below it. So I can't be as I can't be that bullish on it. And then, of course, earnings came out. We had a sell-off. They got a new CEO. Currently, the relative strength on PayPal is 17. You could start. I would not have started a position here. I like PayPal as a company, but I just think that it's so difficult when this chart looks like this. This is not a good chart. And even on the news, it did go up a little bit on the news. There was some good action on the intraday chart here, because they did, I think, replace their CFO. But I still think it's struggling. I would not be a buyer here. As you can see, this is the weekly chart. And of course, it's not the kind of thing you want to see. It moving from high to low. This is in a downward trend. Not a good idea to buy a stock in a downward trend below the 200-day line. It just doesn't work really well, unfortunately. All right, this is a question. Do you think we'll see Tesla back above 300 this year? That's a good question. I don't know. I think it eventually will be above 300, but unless we get a floor, and I think that floor is going to come at about 208, 207. That's my guess. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna bounce until there. If it does bounce there, I definitely think we could see it at 300. But right now, you just can't be in it because it is moving lower. I do think we're going to see some support again. The reason for the news was that they dropped their prices in China on the Model Y. This, of course, affects profitability on the stock. So we can't really be owning Teslas right now. We got to wait for it to firm up. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. This is our question. This is about Tesla again. We talked about NIO. Let's see if we got to everything here. One question. This is on Apple. And Apple is a little bit different story, even though it did pull lower. If we look at the weekly chart, you can definitely see that. So let's jump on over to that weekly chart for Apple. And Apple broke the 50-day moving average here. Typically what will happen is when a stock tests that 50-day line and it doesn't recover, that's a sell signal. So we got a sell signal 2 weeks ago. This is on the weekly chart. We go over to the daily chart on Apple. Yeah, you can see about 2 weeks ago, boom, we violated the 50-day line. And then once that's violated and it doesn't recover, that's where you want to sell. Now, if it violates that line and recovers, that's a buy signal. Let's take a look at NVIDIA and show you why that is indeed the case. Here's NVIDIA, same kind of thing on the daily chart. Let's look at the weekly chart here. On the weekly chart, NVIDIA violated the 50-day line, but look at how much stronger this one is. It violated the 50-day line, but then boom, it moved right back up to the 50-day line. So this is what you want to see. This is a buy signal where it comes down, it tests, and then it comes back. You always want to buy in the uptick. But if it keeps going like Apple did, unfortunately, Apple right now is still in the buy signal. I mean, it's still, excuse me, in a sell signal because it violated that 50-day line, came down, and it hasn't recovered. But it does look like it's getting some support at about 178 or so. And we will see. Now, if it can build a little bit of a shelf there, we might be able to have another opportunity. But right now, even though the relative strength on Apple is 80, I think we got to hold on. We got to kind of wait. We got to kind of wait on this one. So I wouldn't be selling. I would have sold Apple at the 50-day line, but I wouldn't be buying it right now either because it could still go lower. So that's kind of my take. Well, everybody, thank you so much for taking a look at my show. I'm sorry I've been off the air for a little bit of time, and hopefully I'm going to be back more frequently than I've been. But thanks for tuning into the show so very much. So appreciate it, of course. If you are not already a member of the Action Trailer, it's super duper easy. Just go to www.Dallas Trading Floor and just sign up. It's free. And also, please like the video, and that really helps us. Also, subscribe. That also helps us as well. So thank you very, very much. And remember to smash that like button and subscribe to us on YouTube. That would be great. Until, I don't know if I'm going to be back tomorrow or the next day, but I'm going to be definitely back this week. Happy trading, everybody. See ya soon.